Hey y'all, so this is part 2 of the Gravedigger Diary series. Um, this is a story of when I was 16 years old and groomed by a 44-year-old man. Um, Pregnant in high school, moved in with him. He was abusive, alcoholic, and all that. If you haven't watched part 1, please go back and watch part 1. That's just how this all um, started, like the story of my life as a young kid in a nutshell in part 1. So I had a great childhood. I'll just go ahead and say it like that. Um, so at about 15 years old, my mom had already been remarried a couple of years. I had a half brother. My dad had no children, but he'd been remarried for several years. And at 15, my stepdad's family started showing more interest in me. Um, they were just good to me. They took me a lot of places. My step grandparents, I went with them lots of places. We ate out a lot. So on Thursday nights, the family, my stepdad's family, not so much him, but cousins and different things, aunts and uncles, they would get together every Thursday night. About said every Thursday night, and they would eat somewhere. Okay, um, and I didn't have that with my blood, my real family. I didn't have that because my family was small. Um, my dad has a sister that he never got along with, who only had one child. And my mom has a brother that lives in Miami, Florida, that has no children. So all my cousins were distant that I had. Um, and I wasn't used to, what my step family had going on because they would meet like I said once a week and eat and laugh and joke. They were hilarious, you all. They would dress up, put wigs on, have whole, like put on a play kind of thing. It was funny. They were just really fun to be around and good people, honestly. But um, every Thursday night, I started to go with my step grandparents out to eat and to hang out with the family. And one Thursday night, my stepdad's cousin, who was the same age as my stepdad, um, asked me about trail riding with him. Would I go trail riding with him? And I was like, yeah, my dad would like that. That would be fun. So I gave him my phone number. And I think it was the next Saturday we got together, him and his daughter, my dad and I, and we rode at a little park there in our area. Um, I didn't think anything of this at the time, but about 2 weeks later, we rode again. Except for this time, it was just me, my dad, and him. Um, and I remember thinking that he was an attractive guy. I remember because he was dark complected, he had black hair. I mean, he was an attractive man. He was fit, all that. So I remember thinking that, but I didn't say anything to this man. But my dad on this ride, his mule lost a shoe. And we had got so far, and my dad realized that the mule had lost a shoe. He said, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go back down this path that we had been on, this trail, and I'm going to look for my shoe. I'll be back in a few minutes. So it was just me and him. And I said, do you think we should ride on? I don't think we should. And he said, no. He said, we should just stay here. But he got down off of his horse and he came over to me and he put his hand, I was up on the horse, and he put his hand on my knee. I'll never forget this. And he looked up at me and he said, like, I've had such a good day with you, or something like that, something crazy. And I was like, me too. But I knew when he put his hand on my knee and he looked at me in the eye, something was, I don't know, it was different. It was crazy to me. I didn't know what to feel. It was just weird. So when we got back to the trailer, he was loading his horse up and all this and his tack and everything. And I went around to the other side of his trailer and he said, I'll call you later, to me. And I was like, okay, didn't think anything. And about, we loaded up and went home. And about 10 o'clock that night, he sent me a text. He said, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He said, do you care if I call you? Or he said, are you alone? I was like, yeah. And he said, do you care if I call? And I was like, no. And he started talking to me. He called and he started talking to me about the horses and this and that. That's how it started. Everything was about horses and shoeing and trail riding and, that kind of stuff. Didn't think nothing. But slowly over time, he started calling regularly. Like every day. It got to be every day. To the point where I was like, this guy really likes me. Like, and he really likes me. And one day, he asked me, he said, I'm going to be in my town. He said, I'm going to stop by McDonald's or something. He said, you want to grab something to eat with me? I was like, sure. I didn't think nothing of it. I've been talking to the man however long. I was like, sure, that's fine. So he pulls in at McDonald's, and I tell my best friend, I say, look, I really don't know how to feel about this guy. And I've told my best friend everything that's happened to this point. And I said, he wants to grab some food at McDonald's, and I told him sure, it's no big deal. I'd been eating with him every Thursday night with the family. And been talking to him on the phone now every night. So I told my best friend what I was doing. Pulled in up at McDonald's. Got out. Got in the truck with him. Went around the drive-thru. And when we got to the end of the drive-thru, my mother was pulling in to McDonald's. And let me tell you, when I seen my mama, I hit the floorboard. And he said, why did you hit the floorboard? We wasn't doing anything wrong. Now it really looks like we were doing something wrong. And I was like, I don't know. I just felt like I was, that's the first thing I done, my first instinct. So my mom makes a loop around McDonald's, and he pulls out of McDonald's, and she's following him. She's flying, and he's flying. And he makes a turn and makes another turn, loses her, pulls up to some hotel parking lot and drops me off in the parking lot. Let me tell you. So I take her off running through this field by this hotel. I go into a four-wheeler dealership and I call my best friend and say, please come get me, hurry, quick. Because I'm in this four-wheeler dealership and I don't know what to do because he just dropped me off.